This week, there's lots of buzz about Super Bowl 50, but also lots of concern. Law enforcement teams have been preparing for months for the event, which is linked to ramped up efforts by sex traffickers. And joining us now with more on what's happening this weekend is Nita Bells, founder of the nonprofit In Our Backyard and author of the book by the same name. Nita, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nita, this week the Denver Broncos sent home rookie safety Ryan Murphy after authorities questioned him in regards to a prostitution sting in San Francisco. Do you agree with their decision?
Absolutely, he should be sent home. That behavior is absolutely inexcusable.
What does this high-profile detainment tell us about the scope of trafficking at the Super Bowl?
Well, what it tells us is what we've been saying all along. Human trafficking is everywhere, 365 days a year, in every zip code in the United States. Anywhere there is internet, there is trafficking, and not just sex trafficking, but labor trafficking. But today, we're primarily talking about sex trafficking. This tells me that indeed, human trafficking happens at the Super Bowl, which of course we already knew, and it happens in more ways and in more instances and circumstances than people can possibly imagine.
Nita, you have been involved for years in the fight against trafficking, and you're going to be at this year's Super Bowl with a team of volunteers assisting law enforcement. What is your goal?
Right, we're already here. We've been working pretty much the clock around, and I want to give a shout out to my team. I've got a team of professionals here that are working awesome, and our goal is to raise awareness, and we thank you so much for being a part of that. Raise awareness that human trafficking is happening. All the traffickers ask is that we not say anything. If we do that, then they can go about their business. But we need to talk to people about it. I hope everyone that hears this interview will talk about it and raise awareness. And our goal is to help law enforcement recover victims and put the sex buyers and the traffickers behind bars, bring them to justice.
I know that one year at the Super Bowl, you helped to rescue 2 college women who found themselves drunk and then suddenly surrounded by pimps. What happened there?
Yes, that was an interesting situation. So this was in New Orleans, and when they had the Super Bowl there in 2013, I believe, and we were out late at night and saw 2 girls, and at first we thought they were possibly being prostituted. But as we watched, we realized they were just looking for a cab. They were 2 girls from a Christian university. They were drunk, their cell phones were dead, and they'd gone downtown to party with the Super Bowl crowd. This was the night before Super Bowl, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were trying to catch a cab. For whatever reason, that night, cabs were not picking up. And so they tried to get a cab, and we watched them, and we were right off of a street where there was a lot of sex trafficking going on. And the pimps that were down that street spotted them, and they began looking at them, and then 2 pimps came up, and they literally circled these girls a couple times, looking at them and checking them out. And then one of them came up and kind of patted the girl on the arm a little bit roughly, but not enough to hurt her, just to break that physical barrier. And then a guy came out of nowhere. We were down the street just a little bit, and I saw a guy come out of nowhere, put his arm around her. He high-fived the pimp when he came back and said, "High five, man, what's happening?" And that happened twice, and about that time we were able to get to them, and we said to them, "Do you want to ride? Let us get you home safely." And of course, we were a group of middle-aged, fairly normal-looking adults, and they were happy to get in the car. We took them back to their university and talked to them and tried to help them understand what a dangerous situation they were in. One of the girls was crying because she had figured out she really
She was very close to danger. Well, let me ask you, some believe that trafficking at the Super Bowl is a myth. What do we actually know? What kind of numbers do we have that gives us a feel for what's going on?
You know, it's hard to get real hard numbers. We traffickers and victims of sex trafficking don't stand up and hold up their hands to be counted. So real perfect numbers are impossible, but I've heard of an increase anywhere from 30% to 300%. There aren't the tens of thousands of victims being brought in like we've heard. It isn't necessarily the biggest human trafficking event in the world, but any time you have a large number of male population coming in and an excess number of the cash is really excess, then we have people that are going to capitalize on that. And traffickers see the money and they bring their victims. And make no mistake, the traffickers will be the ones to take that money. And I'm calling them traffickers. Sometimes they're called pimps, but our society has kind of glamorized that language. They're traffickers, they're human traffickers, they're people using other people for flesh.
So for the rest of this week, what will you be doing?
We have a command post set up. We're working with local law enforcement. And in fact, I would love to give a shout out to FBI and Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office and some other law enforcement agencies. They have worked tirelessly. They're doing a great job to try to curb the human trafficking happening here at the Super Bowl, prevent others from being trafficked, and really put to justice the sex buyers and the traffickers. So we're working with them, and we're just trying to do what we can. We had a big event, a couple of big events on the weekend. Last weekend, we sent out missing kids books. We distributed missing kids books, and of the missing kids books, I don't have a count for today, but last night we had 6 children that had been recovered. And so we don't claim responsibility for that. We know that they've been recovered. We know we got their information out, and it's likely that may have had something to do with it, but we don't know. And then in addition to that, we put out what we call freedom stickers. Freedom stickers are something that my organization's been doing for a few years, and the state of Oregon just passed a law, House Bill number 3143, which requires that these freedom stickers go out with every renewal of a liquor license in the state of Oregon. And we ask that those be put inside the bathroom stalls, because oftentimes that's the only time a victim of sex trafficking or labor trafficking is alone. And particularly sex trafficking victims have a phone with them at all time, because that's how their trafficker controls them, by calling that telephone. And so they can go inside a bathroom stall, and within just a couple of minutes, they can text the National Human Trafficking Hotline, which is 233-733, Be Free is the acronym, and have help on the way. They can erase that text before they leave the stall and know that help is on the way, and they can safely escape that situation.
All right. Well, lots of great things going on in the fight against trafficking. Nita Bells, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the interview.